My 6-year-old daughter looked straight at me and said Marcus is my real dad now, and the worst part was she was smiling when she said it, like she actually believed it. My name is Ryan Cole. I am 36 years old and I live in Dayton, Ohio. Before my life fell apart, I was a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing plant, the kind of steady job that lets you coach Little League on weekends and still make it home for dinner most nights. I was married to a woman named Jenna for 9 years. We had a daughter together named Emily, and back then I thought we had a good life. Nothing fancy, but ours. My best friend was a guy named Marcus. We met in high school, stood up in each other's weddings, spent every 4th of July together grilling in somebody's backyard. When Jenna and I struggled to get pregnant, Marcus was the one who sat with me in the hospital waiting room. When my dad passed away, Marcus drove 4 hours in the middle of the night just to be there when I got the call. I trusted him with everything. I trusted him with my marriage too, which turned out to be a mistake nobody warns you about, because you never think to guard your marriage from the one person you would trust with your life. Jenna and I divorced 2 years ago. At the time she told me we had grown apart, that she needed space to find herself, that it had nothing to do with anyone else. I believed her because I had no reason not to. We split custody of Emily. I kept my apartment 10 minutes from her school, and I told myself that even though the marriage was over, at least Emily would still have both her parents close by. I had no idea what was actually coming. It started small. Marcus began showing up more at Jenna's place when I dropped Emily off. At first I thought nothing of it, he was my friend, why wouldn't he stop by? Then Emily started mentioning his name in a way that made my stomach turn. She would say Marcus made pancakes, or Marcus fixed her bike, or Marcus tucked her in when mommy was tired. I remember standing in my kitchen holding the phone, hearing my 6-year-old talk about my best friend putting my daughter to bed, and feeling something cold settle in my chest. I called Marcus and asked him straight out, "Are you seeing Jenna?" He went quiet for a second too long before he answered. "It's not what you think, man. We just started talking a few months ago. I wasn't trying to hurt you." I told him that talking to my ex-wife behind my back for months while still calling himself my friend was exactly what I thought. He tried to explain that feelings just happened, that nobody planned it, that he had actually tried to stay away at first. I hung up on him before he finished the sentence. 6 months later they were married. No warning conversation with me, no real apology, just a save-the-date card that showed up in Emily's backpack because Jenna wanted our daughter to be the flower girl. I remember sitting in my truck in the school parking lot holding that little card, my hands shaking, wondering how the two people I trusted most in the world had built an entire relationship in the space where my back was turned. After the wedding, things got worse fast. Marcus moved into Jenna's house, which meant he was suddenly around Emily every single day that I wasn't. He started coming to her school events, sitting close to Jenna, smiling at the other parents like he belonged there. At Emily's kindergarten graduation he stood up and took pictures like a proud father while I stood in the back row feeling like a stranger at my own daughter's life. Then came the day that broke something in me. I picked Emily up for my weekend and she climbed into my truck, buckled her seat belt, and said, "Dad, guess what? Marcus is taking me fishing next weekend, just like you used to." She called him Dad. Not Marcus, not Jenna's husband, Dad. I kept my eyes on the road so she wouldn't see my face, and I asked as calm as I could manage who told her to call him that. She said mommy told her it was okay since Marcus loved her just as much as I did. That night I called Jenna and asked her directly if she was letting our daughter call another man Dad. She did not even sound apologetic. Ryan, kids adapt. Marcus is a father figure in her life now, whether you like it or not. Maybe if you had been around more, this wouldn't feel so threatening to you. I reminded her that I had never once missed a custody exchange, never once missed a game or a recital, and she knew it. She told me I was being dramatic and hung up. I tried talking to my own family about it, hoping for support. My mother, who had always liked Marcus, told me I needed to let it go for Emily's sake, that fighting over a name would only confuse a little girl who needed stability. My sister said something that stung even worse. Maybe it's a good thing Emily has another man who wants to be involved. Not every kid gets that. I sat there stunned, realizing that even my own blood saw Marcus stepping into my role as some kind of blessing instead of the betrayal it actually was. I brought it up with a few co-workers too, thinking maybe I was overreacting, maybe this really was normal for blended families. One guy at work, a father of 3 from a previous marriage, just shrugged and said his own kids called his ex-wife's boyfriend by his first name and it never caused problems. Nobody around me seemed to understand that this was different. This was not some random boyfriend. This was the man who used to be in my wedding photos, the man who knew every secret I ever had, now raising my daughter and letting her call him what I had earned the right to be called. I stopped sleeping well. I would lie awake replaying every fishing trip, every birthday party, every late-night phone call where Marcus told me he had my back no matter what. I started missing details at work because my mind was somewhere else entirely, imagining Emily's school forms with Marcus's name on the emergency contact line, imagining some future where I became the extra parent instead of the real one. I lost almost 15 pounds that spring without trying. My supervisor pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay at home, and I did not even know how to answer that question honestly. The lowest point came on Father's Day. Jenna texted me a photo without asking, Emily in a homemade card that said "World's Best Dad," except the card was sitting on Marcus's lap at a cookout with Jenna's family, and I was not there because it was not my custody weekend. I sat alone in my apartment staring at that photo for almost an hour. I remember thinking that I had done everything right, showed up for every appointment, paid every bill on time, never missed a single scheduled visit, and somehow I was still being erased from my own child's life by the 2 people who claimed to care about her the most. That night I finally decided I was done being quiet about it. I was not going to fight Marcus, and I was not going to scream at Jenna anymore over the phone, because none of that had worked. Instead I called a family law attorney the next morning and laid out everything, the name change, the missed communication, the pattern of Jenna making unilateral decisions about who got to parent my daughter. My lawyer told me something that stuck with me. You don't fight this with anger, Ryan. You fight this with documentation and boundaries. So that is exactly what I started doing. I began writing down every single incident, every text where Jenna dismissed my concerns, every time Emily mentioned being told to call Marcus Dad. I requested a formal parenting plan modification through the court, not to punish anyone, but to put in writing that decisions about who my daughter called her father were mine to be part of, not something decided quietly behind my back. I also sat Emily down myself, gently, and told her that she could love Marcus and still only have one dad, and that dad was always going to be me no matter who else was in her life. She hugged me and said, I know that, Daddy, I just didn't want Marcus to feel sad. My 6-year-old had been carrying that weight so I would not have to hear the truth, and that broke my heart all over again. The court hearing happened about 2 months later. I did not go in trying to take Emily away from her mother, and I made that clear from the start. All I asked for was a clear order stating that any major decisions about parental titles or roles needed to include me, and that Emily's existing schedule with me would not be reduced just because a new husband had entered the picture. Jenna's lawyer tried to paint me as controlling, insecure, threatened by a happy blended family. My lawyer calmly laid out the documented pattern, the unilateral name change, the missed communications, the messages where Jenna admitted she had not asked my opinion because she assumed I would say no. The judge read through everything without much expression, then looked directly at Jenna and asked why a father who had never missed a visitation or a payment had not been consulted about something as significant as what his daughter called him. Jenna did not have a good answer. The judge granted my request, ordered clear guidelines around communication regarding Emily's upbringing, and specifically noted in the order that Emily's biological father held the title of dad, and any other role Marcus played needed to be respectful of that fact going forward. It was not a dramatic courtroom movie moment, no shouting, no big speech, just a quiet legal acknowledgement of something I already knew but desperately needed someone else to say out loud. Something shifted after that. Jenna started communicating with me directly again instead of letting things happen and hoping I would just accept them. Marcus, to his credit, actually pulled back a little, maybe out of guilt, maybe because he finally understood the position he had put me in. He never fully apologized the way I think he should have, but he stopped inserting himself into moments that were not his to claim. Emily still likes him, still goes fishing with him sometimes, and honestly, I have made peace with that, because a 6-year-old having more people who care about her is not inherently a bad thing. What mattered was that nobody got to quietly rewrite who her father was without me having a say. These days Emily still calls me dad, only me, and she says it without hesitation, without confusion, without anyone whispering something different in her ear when I am not around. Last week she drew a picture at school of her family, and when I picked her up she ran to me holding it out, pointing at the tallest figure in the drawing. "That's you, Daddy, you're always the biggest one." I framed that drawing and put it on my dresser, right where I see it every single morning.